there's a problem with traditional IRAs. Hi, this is financial planner Sean Mullaney. Let's discuss. So this week I read an article off Clark Howard's website, clark.com. I'm going to link to it in the description below. And it talks about the problem of inheriting a traditional IRA. Let's think about, an adult child. They inherit an IRA, a traditional IRA, from their parents. And what happens is, starting with 2020, there's this new rule from Secure 1.0 that says the adult child, in most cases, is going to have to empty that traditional IRA in 10 years. It's called the 10-year rule. And the problem with it is, those traditional IRAs are tax deferred. So every dollar that's going to come out is going to be included in income. Maybe there's some basis, but in most cases there's zero basis. So you're taking an asset and you're saying over a 10-year window, that entire asset has to be included in the adult child's taxable income, and that can jack up their tax rates. And the article is sort of interesting. It proposes that maybe what mom and dad should do is spend down that traditional IRA, so that Junior isn't going to inherit an asset that's loaded with taxes and that's going to jack up Junior's tax rate. And I think there's some merit to that, especially as mom and dad get a little older, right? Spending down the traditional IRA can have some advantages if mom and dad themselves are in a lower tax bracket. But let me suggest an alternative path that mom and dad might want to consider, particularly if they are, one, doing well financially, and two, in a relatively low tax bracket. What mom and dad might want to do in their 70s and 80s is do Roth conversions. What that would do is that would get the money out of the traditional IRA. Now, yes, they have to pay income tax on that. But when the children inherit, they inherit a Roth IRA. And inheriting a Roth IRA is usually a pretty good thing. There'll be no required minimum distributions, which is great. And two, there's not going to be anything to worry about in terms of tax, right? They can take it all in the first year or the 10th year, whatever they want to do. No additional income tax from taking out the Roth IRA that they inherit. So that's good. But now let's think about, maybe you're Junior. You're one of the kids inheriting a big traditional IRA from a parent. And, that's a good problem to have, but it's still a tax planning problem. What might you want to do? What you probably want to do is first ask, do I need to take an RMD? And the answer to that generally comes from the age your parent was when they died, right? So the IRS has come out with this hokey interpretation. It is what it is. For 2023 and beyond, basically, if your parent was beyond the required beginning date for themselves and you inherit in 2020 or later, starting in 2023, there's a whole history here. I'm going to link to a blog post from kitces.com on it. But basically, starting in 2023, you're going to have to take an RMD. So if your parent was younger than that, which means, maybe in their 60s or very early 70s or 50s, then you don't have to take the RMD. But in either case, the RMD is only one piece of the analysis. Because here's the thing. Even if you're taking that RMD, you don't want to let that tax deferred account build and build and build, and now it's year 10 and now you have a tax bomb. Because by the end of year 10, whether you're subject to this RMD rule or not, guess what? You got to take the full balance from the traditional IRA. So there are going to be some folks out there, maybe their parents died very young or relatively young, in their 60s, sadly, and they inherit a traditional IRA. They're in most cases going to want to start taking from that traditional IRA in years 1 through 9, just so that the tax hit in year 10 isn't so bad. And then the same thing, maybe you inherit from your parents, when they were in their 80s. Okay, fine. You're going to be subject to these RMDs, but you might want to take more than the RMD because, maybe the RMD in your case is relatively modest, and now the asset starts growing and growing and growing. In year 10, you're in this tax bomb again. So traditional IRAs, there's some issues there. It's definitely an indication that you ought to consider some planning if you're elderly and you have a large traditional IRA, or if you're inheriting one of these large traditional IRAs, you probably want to think about some affirmative tax planning. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please mash that like button and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you next time.